Your thoughts are as far as the culture goes. Everyone always talks about, youth today or the culture and obviously culture is constantly changing, and this breed of kids is very different from the older group, and, obviously there's also a culture in the current adults today, so you can talk about that as well, but how does that affect the topic of the nature of being able to learn creatively or creative learning?
Well, I just want to start with, because I'm in the field of technology now, because the kids have so many technology tools at just their cell phone that can take movies, and I'm seeing the kids are more and more creative, because even though the institution does this to them, they have all these tools at their beck and call now, and they love using them. So it's easier and easier to get the kids sometimes, to go around the teachers and give the kids a creative project now. They'll do it because they know they have all these great tools, and technology, I think, is helping us with that.
It's interesting, because and my gut is to say that you need to slow down, because my worry is that, and there's so much value in where we're headed technologically, but also I think to teach our students and the new generation that you need to slow down, and you need to, the face-to-face time is really important. I think that whole community thing, and it's almost a rarity, to sit around the table at home around dinner time, but that's how I grew up, and I know a lot of people did, or not around the table, but at another point, and that time to talk and to share, where it's quicker to IM, and it's quicker to, hang out on your BlackBerry and everything else. And I'm so technologically not even savvy, so I don't even know if I'm saying those things right. But I'm seeing people, that it's constantly going on. And we have to change with it, but I think we also need to remember to have those personal connections and those relationships, which I think are really very valuable.
They do have those, that's how they do their relationships.
That's true.
So I have a 16-year-old stepdaughter, and so she's got her cell phone, and she's texting, and she's got 3 IM things going, and she's studying, and she's watching TV. But that's the way they communicate. And even my boys are older now, and they're grown up and out of the house, but they would there'd be 3 boys in the same room on their computers, and they're in the same room, and they're playing a movie or playing a game together, and they're texting each other and talking to each other in the game. But if they were in that same room without the computers, they wouldn't be talking to each other.
That's interesting.
So they work, so it's a different, I can argue both ways, because I prefer the face-to-face myself, but I'm older. That's how they communicate with each other, and it still is communication.
This is their reality.
Yeah.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah. Well,
than we're used to.
And we talk about, there are actually 4 generations in the workplace. It's not just, the youngest individuals kind of up and coming and knocking on the door, trying to get a job. It's, other generations that have, come through. What is it? There's a generation before the baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and I'm sure there's going to be another one soon.
Gen Z.
There you go. There's a Z. Okay. And what we've seen, and we've had a lot of folks come to us and say, I have no idea what the heck they're talking about. They come in flip-flops, and they want to, come in late. And so it really does kind of boil back down to communication. And it is very important to be able to teach and nurture creativity across generations. The key, I think, is going to be, how do you communicate that, and how do you nurture that? Because everyone has a different approach, a different style. Personally, I think the face-to-face is terrific. I think reflection time is very important. But my children, 2 children, that will text me before they'll answer the phone. So I completely understand, and that's how we communicate, and I'm okay with that too. But as you walk into, the workplace, whether it's education or otherwise, and you're trying to communicate this creative problem-solving thing, how will you do it, and how will you engage all of these generations, not just the 4 that are there, but the ones that are up and coming. And I'm sure even perceptually, Mary Beth, you and I are different ages. Wow. We're very different, right? Okay, so you may have a preconceived notion of me, and I may have the same of you. Whether it's because we're, different generations or what have you, you're going to be faced with that. So when you go in and you facilitate and you see a huge diversity, and not just, by age, but, diversity encompasses all kinds of things, intercultural, you've got a challenge. And so I think you're posing a very, very good question. How do we do that? What's a universal language that everyone will understand?
Okay, thank you. So thank you for getting us started thinking about creative learning and teaching, and we'll take a break and come back.
I have one. And this will be more on topic in terms of curriculum. In 635, Sue has assigned us a very interesting article by Sternberg that presents a leadership model that's really related to curriculum. It's called WIX, Wisdom, Intelligence, and Creativity. And just something that's kind of analogous is that in the positive psychology movement, creativity is separated from wisdom. There's a very clear line, and it seems to be like a trend that's happening just on the larger scale, that creativity is starting to become more associated with divergent thinking and wisdom convergent. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of wondering, how do you guys integrate the two separate thinking styles into the everyday curriculum or in your jobs and what you do?
Well, creativity is that convergent thing of coming together. I mean, in order to be creative, you have to have both. You come up with the ideas, but unless you choose which ideas you're going to use and then put them together in a new way, the convergent is part of being creative. So I wouldn't put it as two separate things. That's why I think creativity is the highest level of Bloom's taxonomy, because you need to all of those other things as part of. Anytime, if April does something, we say that was really creative. Whatever she did that we labeled as creativity, she had to have both convergent and a divergent thing, but she chose something. Mm-hmm. And she chose a number of somethings and put them together in a new way that made us say that's creative. So I don't see that we can separate them out.
Well, processes is all based on, diverging and converging.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, but I think that kind of speaks to the original myth. Myths associated with creativity to some degree, and we still battle that. When you say creativity, people immediately, at least in my different environments that I work in, their mind immediately goes to brainstorming. Well, I know how to brainstorm, big deal. They don't really understand, as Nancy said, that that's only a piece of it. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's a piece of each of the steps, in the process. So certainly we can say, okay, creative maybe has to do, if we're talking about some divergent, but this wisdom that we're talking about really is just the other side of the coin. Mm-hmm. In order to really produce some sort of a creative product or service, you have to be able to combine both. And we'll pick on April. Mm-hmm. She comes up with this creative product. Really, even when we look at the definition, creativity is novelty, but that's useful. Mm-hmm. And so you've got both sides of that coin there. And logically we can separate it, but functionally it has to be together, or it doesn't work.
You have to have that wisdom to know which ideas to choose and put together in what way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In order for it to really work.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of wisdom, I really thank you all for coming today. And to kind of sum up the creative teaching and learning and training, comes to mind 4 things that my colleagues are, and I've known these ladies for quite a while. Creative teachers, all 3 of them. Creative learners. So have to be a creative learner to be a creative teacher. They also teach in creative ways and teach creativity. So I applaud you and I thank you all for sharing today with us all that you have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.